Instructions: for the suggested topics below, replace project name with your project name. Some of the topics may not apply to all projects. In the topics, where a response is optional, a choice NA for this report is acceptable. Section 1.1. User problem or project background. You can refer to Section 2 Project Scope within of the project charter. Section 1.2. Application Scope. Briefly explain the boundary of the planned application and the environment in which it is supposed to operate. Clarifying the scope and limitations helps to establish realistic stakeholder expectations. Sometimes customers request features that are too expensive, or do not fall within the intended product scope. The objective is to have a clear understanding of the scope of the work and understand the operating environment, so that the requirements gathering can be more precise and efficient. Section 1.3. References. List all documents that serve as inputs to the customer requirements document. Section 1.4. Customer users of the application. List the potential customer users of the application. For each category of user, provide the following information: customer user role or user group, location, subject matter knowledge, technical knowledge, preferred environment, background, other observations, if any. Section 1.5. Definitions and acronyms. Include definitions for any unique symbols or notations that are used in this document, which may cause confusion with the intended message, or may result in multiple interpretations of some key terms. Define all the terms necessary to properly interpret the specification document, including acronyms and abbreviations. Include definitions for terms that have multiple uses, or unique organization uses. Customer requirements, simply stated, are a high-level description of what the application must do. They identify the benefits that the new application will provide to the customer and/or to the organization. Customer requirements are listed as major features that are needed to satisfy the stated goals, objectives, and strategies for the project. To ensure that each requirement has the necessary amount of information, use the following template to capture the required data for each customer requirement. The data identified in the template is required, but the format is not. The project can make the determination as to the best method of entering and maintaining this data. Requirement ID. Every requirement needs to be uniquely identified. The requirement ID is the unique label given to that requirement. Each team can develop its unique numbering convention. The requirement must support the documented goal model for the project. The goal model is prepared and agreed with all responsible parties during the plan phase of the project, and is documented in the process review summary. It is approved as part of the project readiness review process. For a requirement to be considered valid, it must meet the following criteria: support one or more approved project goals, objectives or targets, strategies, process critical success factors, and support one or more approved to be processes. Global local. Each requirement needs to be classified as local or global. If it is local, the IO that it belongs to needs to be specified. Priorities. Essential. Application not acceptable unless this requirement is provided in an agreed manner. Conditional. Would enhance the application, but would not make it unacceptable if absent. Optional. Might be worthwhile if resources permit. Section 3. Assumptions and other relevant facts. Include any assumptions that were made with regards to the analysis or decisions of the project, its systems, and its requirements. Also include any other relevant facts regarding external factors that have an effect on the application, but are not covered by the other sections. Section 4. Requirement constraints and dependencies. Constraints and dependencies often impact and or provide direction on how the application must ultimately be developed. Dependencies are a form of constraint in that they can influence the timing, content, risk, etc. for a project. Customer rules can also be a form of constraint and need to be comprehended and captured here. Use the following table to detail and uniquely identify any conditions that restrict the requirements to specifying an application that fit within the constraint for the project. There are two types of constraints. Design constraints are pre-existing design decisions that mandate how the final application must look, or the technology that it must use. Project constraints are constraints that cover things like budget, schedule, deadlines, etc. and are documented in the project plan.